Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for session 3 of the Fundraising Made Easy training series, brought to you in collaboration with APEX Advocacy and 50 by 40. We are so excited for all of the great feedback that we've had from this session, this series so far, and especially excited for today's session on proposal writing with Meghan O'Brien Lowery. And I am just so excited for all of the goodness. I got a peek at the slides. You all are in for a treat today. So have something ready to take notes, to keep track of all of that you're learning today. I'm going to just keep this intro brief. And I know that many of you have already been here for parts of the series. And so I'll kind of save some more of my wrap up things for the end and just let Meghan dive right into it. So I'm going to pass it on and add you up to the spotlight.
Hey, hi everyone. A lot of pressure today. We sold out. That's intimidating, but exciting. So thank you for everyone who joined. If you will take a minute and just put your name and your preferred pronouns and where you are in the world, it's very exciting to see people from all over the world join. That's awesome. Our movement is so powerful and international. I'm going to share my screen and we can get started. And Brielle, you'll continue to just let people in, I assume.
Yep, I'll continue to let people in and I'll keep track of things in the chat if anything important comes up.
Great. Okay. Amazing. Okay. Give me some thumbs up if you can actually see what I've created for you today. Yay. Thank you, thumbs. Appreciate you. Okay, wonderful. So I am a big fan of short and sweet, and I am gonna just let you know today is not short and sweet. There is so much to cover. I could talk about this for 3 days. So we are in for a thrilling 57 minutes, or that's what it was this morning when I timed it. So I just want everyone to sort of buckle in. If you need to use the restroom, if you need to go get a sip of water, please do. You can take notes if you like, but I will be sharing my slides afterwards, but I don't put my speaking notes in my slides. Those are sort of my private little notes to myself. So you'll just get like a PDF version of this, and I will send you the QR code afterwards. So we are officially starting, and I'm gonna time myself to see how long I'm chatting with you today. Gonna stop watch it. And okay, so welcome everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's really good to see many of you. In my little side screen, I see my friend B and Javiera de Chile. ¿Cómo estás? Con mucho gusto. I'm really excited to present. Thank you so much to APEX Advocacy and 50 by 40 for having me today. I know a lot of you, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Meghan. It's so nice to meet you. I wish that we were in person and we could hang out. Maybe all of you will come to the AVA Summit this July and we can have a glass of water together and maybe sing some karaoke. I want to first just say a sincere thank you to Brielle. She's somewhat, I think, new-ish to our movement, and she has such deep intention around creating space for healing and not letting us get burned out, and meditation and love and kindness. And she's just an amazing advocate in our space, and she's creating all these wonderful webinars for us. So thank you to Brielle for not only being my technology goddess, but also the person that is really reminding us that we have to take care of ourselves if we want to save all those animals. So as Brielle mentioned before, my name is Meghan O'Brien Lowery. I use the O'Brien because there is a Meghan Lowery in the world that does not like me very much. She gets emails from people. So please use the O'Brien if you will. That's my official middle name. And As some of you probably know, I work for an organization called the Greenbaum Foundation. We are a private non-operating foundation that supports people that are trying to end factory farming. But I also run my own consulting business. We provide services for individuals looking to distribute their wealth or nonprofits striving towards better governance, and then all things public speaking. I love public speaking, effective communication, pitching, narration, any of those things. And I was very brave last year and I made a website and I paid someone to brand me. And so you can go to my website in the end, and that's kind of exciting and brave. Not many people have even seen it yet. So I would love some feedback if you have any. Okay, here's what we're going to talk about today. 3 sections. First, we're going to talk about the landscape. So what are we dealing with in this space? How much money? How many people? How many animals? I'm not going to tell you anything that you probably don't already know, but it's good to have a little landing page. Then we're going to talk about 2 main items today. That is proposal writing and grant writing. And are those the same things or are they different? We're going to talk about the definitions. And personally, I just want to share, as some of you know, I've been on both sides of this. So I was on the side of fundraising and working for a nonprofit for many years. I have written hundreds of grant proposals and applications, and many of them got denied. So I know that feeling of rejection, and I really hope today I can share what I've learned, and we have plenty of time at the end to dive into questions. Okay, so what are we dealing with? Let's orient ourselves a little bit. So there's about 10 million organizations registered worldwide. Now we know that there is more than that because many organizations don't even register. They're just people doing amazing things, trying to advocate for people and climate and animals and all of the things. So there's probably more than 10 million, and roughly we have about 550 billion being donated globally each year to support those organizations. Now, officially, we have about 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in the US. So to put that into perspective a little bit, there's around 10 million nonprofits worldwide. So about 15% of the world's nonprofits are based in the US. So we are not as big as you think, but a lot of our money comes from the US to support US and international nonprofits. So I'm sure you've seen this little snapshot here. It is this wonderful little assessment that Giving USA does every year. This one is from 2021. The 2022 has not come out yet. But in 2021, 484 billion went to charity. That's just Americans that gave money. And as you can see at the very top right there, 27% went to religion. And that kind of hasn't changed in decades and decades and decades. It's always in between, like at least above 20%. So a lot of people want to give to their local community church or a religion that they follow. And then our little number is way, way, way down here at 3%. And that is split between environment and animals, which is kind of cool because animals affect environment and environment affect animals. But sadly, it's only at 3%. So that means about of that $484 billion used, only about 1.5% goes to animals. And that stinks. And in the animal advocacy landscape, we know that we have about 42 farmed animal funders. Those people are people that are trying to fund organizations to stop factory farming. There's a lot of different ways and nuance in which the funders want to do that or want to support that, but it's only about $200 million a year that is distributed. And as many of you have sadly heard, it is less this year. We are going to have a hold on and ride the roller coaster year because of many, many, many factors. But there's still over 2,000 organizations and growing every day in our space that's trying to help animals. So we're going to go through some definitions because there's a lot of different words when we're talking about what is grant writing, what is proposal writing, what's an RFP, what's an LOI, what's an application. And I think that many of these terms can be used sort of interchangeably. So some people might call a link to a portal in which you apply somewhere, they might call that grant writing, or they might call it writing a proposal. So I'm just going to orient how I describe these things so that when I refer to them in our talk today, you will somewhat understand. So the top three is an application, an RFP, and an LOI. So let's start at the beginning. If you have a foundation that you would like to ask if you can even submit a proposal, usually your first step is an LOI. That is a letter of intent. That is a formal request in either paper form or email in which you just say, hi, I'm this organization, I'm doing this great stuff, and it seems like you want to support people that are doing what I do. So could I submit an application or a proposal, or can you send me a link to apply to your funding? And they sort of say yes or no. 9 times out of 10, to be honest, they don't usually answer your letter or email, sadly. And then the next is a request for proposal. So this is a really formal sort of, usually large foundations that have to give out sort of millions and millions of dollars every year, places like Gates and Rockefeller and Ford. They'll put out an RFP, and that sort of says, hey, we have this sector, we have this thing this problem that we're trying to solve, and we're going to ask for a bunch of you to submit proposals. But wait, here is a list of all of the things that you have to meet before you can submit a proposal. And usually those things are either, you're an organization that is addressing that problem, but it also might be budget size or org size, or how many people work there full time, or a specific region, like they only want RFPs from people that are working in India or something like that. So make sure if you are seeing an RFP, they're not terribly common in our space, but if you are seeing a request for proposal, that you just really read the fine print to make sure that you're not wasting your time applying something that you're not right for. And finally is an application. Now, we have a few of these in our movement, the EA Animal Welfare Fund, we have Veg Fund, we have Eat for Change. These are direct portals or links in which you can go into. Now, that to me is grant writing, because oftentimes grant writing means that they give you a list of questions and you get to answer them. So grant writing for me is the process of applying for funding provided by a private foundation, a corporation, or a government. Now, if you've ever applied for federal or state money within the US, it is a terribly long, awful, arduous process. There's 1,000 questions and different hoops you have to jump through. Now, when I say writing a proposal, this is more of a sort of loosey-goosey, amorphous way in which you apply for funding. So this means there's no questions, there's no link, there's no portal. It's just sort of the funder will say, sure, pitch me, send me what you do, show me what you got. And you sort of have to figure out, well, what do they want? Do they want a budget? Do they want to know every staff member's name? Do they want to know my history? So we're going to talk about those two things today, how they're different and how they're the same. So let's talk about expectations first. Applications, and those are the grant writing section, the portal, the application, the link. Only about 1 out of 10 of those are approved. And if you are submitting a proposal, you're doing some sort of like proposal writing, only 10 to 30% of those have a success rate. Now, I don't tell you this to bum you out, though it is a real bummer. I tell you this because your time is limited and you are very smart individuals who have probably a lot on your plate. And I want to make sure that you understand that the odds are not in your favor. You will have a challenging time getting funding if you go through either of these ways, but I also don't want you to get discouraged. I just want you to know what the odds are at first, and then understand that if the application is 17 pages long and there's a 1 in 10 chance you're going to get it, is that worth your time? Is that the best use of who you are and what you're doing and how you're trying to help animals? So just things to think about as we move forward. Okay, I just gave you a lot of information. We're going to take a deep breath together. I want everyone to raise their hands up, put their hands up in the sky. Yes. And we're going to take a deep breath in and hold it at top. And then let it out. Let your hands down as you let it out. Okay, we got this. We can do this. The expectations are high. There is limited money. We have over 70 billion animals to save, but we are fierce and strong and kind and good and on the right side of history. And our ancestors will say, my grandparent, aunt, uncle, great, whatever did this for us. So we know we were in the good. So we've taken a deep breath, and let's talk through what we even think about before we start to jump into this. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I did a version of this webinar at the AVA Summit in October, and I am sharing that because I interviewed a bunch of the funders in our space. And these are all the words that they used when talking through what they want to see in a grant application or a proposal. They want it to be short, and I will say that a lot today: direct, thoughtful, clear, straightforward. These are words that you can sort of print out and tape to your computer. And every time you're writing something, or every time you're thinking through an email that you want to send to someone and asking for money, I want you to use these words. These are the words that need to be in your brain when you're thinking through ways in which you build your narrative around asking for funding. So the first section that we're going to talk about today is the grant proposal. Now, I am doing this first because I think it's harder than an application, because you have no idea. You're building something from scratch. And oftentimes, if you have a grant proposal, you probably answered a lot of the questions that are in the application within the proposal, so you can just copy paste. So we're going to build a grant proposal first, and then we're going to talk about that link or that application, that grant writing section. We're going to talk about how many pages, what to include, and how to send. So biggest question that I get is, how many pages should it be? There's not a great answer. Unfortunately, it could be 1, it could be 3, it could be 5. I've gotten like a 60-page proposal. You know, it could be many, many, many things. I think that a sweet spot is between 3 and 5, but I have some magical news for you. You can just ask that person. If you are being invited to apply for funding, just say, how many pages do you like? Do you want tons of detail? Do you not want any detail? Should it be 10 pages long? Should it be 1 page long? There are basic things that you should include in either a 1-pager or a 10-pager, and we will go over those, but I think that knowledge is power here, so don't be afraid to ask what the funder, corporation, government, ask what they prefer. Okay, so this is a proposal that I got. I'm going to be sharing a lot of examples today. I just want to preface this by saying I got complete okay from all of these groups. So I'm not just randomly sharing their proposals without their permission. This is a proposal I got from Animal Defense Partnership quite some time ago, so it's plenty old. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know they were working in our movement. I know many of you are their clients, but this is the first proposal that they gave me. We're just going to sit for a minute. We're just going to see how long this proposal is. Oh, we're on page 2. Oh, we're on page 3. Nope, they're still talking. Page 4. Oh, Lord, they're on page 5. Okay. All righty. Oh, and 7. Oh, good. Okay, 8. Oh, all righty. And oh, they gave me an appendix. Wow. Okay. I say this in all fun. We support them. They are an incredible group of lawyers that support our movement. But at the offset, 10 pages is quite a lot for me to digest, and only a set of lawyers would put an appendix in their grant proposal. It's kind of silly. I love it. But it is really important just to know that that is a lot for someone to digest if you don't know anything about them. So here is another example. And I'm going to go through this really quick, just give you a quick little snapshot, but I want you to immediately notice the difference. It's 3 pages, it's colorful, it's bright. There's information in there, but there's also a lot of fun graphics. And we're going to break that down a little bit. So here's what you must include, even if you only have 1 page. These are things that you must include. Now, you have to say the name of your organization. Now, it seems as if that would be completely basic information and you all would know that, but you would be surprised. I have definitely gotten a proposal where the person forgot to put what their organization is called. They just sort of jumped right into what they do. Another element that is deeply important that I talked about in the pitch talk at the AVA Summit is putting your org budget in like the top right-hand corner of every proposal you do. And I'm going to tell you why. The org budget orients the funder. If you are a funder who only gives $1,000 grants and your organizational budget is $10 million a year, we are immediately not a fit. It is not a good idea for me to try to fund you because $1,000 would pay for your paper clips. Again, paper clips are important, but again, your organizational yearly budget orients you. It sort of orients you and the funder to sort of say, okay, they don't have any full-time staff or they do have full-time staff. They're absolutely massive. And so I'm not going to be thinking in the $10,000 range. I'm going to be thinking in the $250,000 range. Now, funders have a wide range of what they can give to you. I give $1,000 grants, and I also give much, much, much larger grants. But this is a way to sort of orient you. So you always want that yearly org budget. Even if you're only applying for project-specific money, you still want to put your yearly org budget. I'm going to say this probably 12 times today. No one does it. Even people who get money from me, even people who I've told who then submit proposals, everyone forgets to do it. So we're going to break down some of these elements, but to go over them quickly: name of organization, mission and vision, track record, goals, outcomes. We're going to dive into those a little bit more deeply. But we are deeply going to dive into budgets, and I'm going to tell you why. I think they scare people. I think people get really stressed when they have to talk about money. Money is oftentimes very emotional for people. I know I grew up with a lower middle income family. And so my parents constantly talked about money and telling me how much everything cost and, you know, what money we were spending on things. And so I grip money like with a death grip. I'm like, I have to have health insurance and I have to be able to pay my mortgage and all of those things. And so money is sometimes uncomfortable for people. So let's look at a lot of different ways where we can talk about your budget that make you feel safe and comfortable. There is no right or wrong way. I'm going to give you some options. I'm going to start with the most simple version. This is high level. These are staff costs and basic overhead compared to individual things like paper clips and paper. As again, on that first page, you want to put that yearly org budget on there. But if you have a 5-page proposal, you definitely want to give the funder a breakout of how you're spending that $500,000 a year or how you're spending that $1 million a year. And again, high level here. You don't want to talk about the small things. This is a great opportunity if you only have 3 pages, but you want to give them a budget, but you want to make sure that they can have a chance to see a more detailed version. Just put the budget on there and embed a link in the document, right? Because then they can link to a Google spreadsheet and then they can see an even more detailed version. Or if you are providing the organizational budget and you want to link to specific projects, you can just put the project name and then link that project specific budget embedded in the link. Now, if you are trying to raise general operating support or for a specific program and you have already raised money towards that, you need to let the funder know in that proposal. And I'll tell you why. If you are trying to raise $100,000 for a campaign that you're running and you've already raised 70,000 of that and you only need 30,000 left, that's very incentivizing for a funder. It makes us sort of see, oh, wow, they're over halfway there. They only need 30,000. It helps us make an easier decision. So let's look at some other ways to display budgets. So this is a group in the UK called We the Free, pardon me, there's no R in there. And this is a really interesting example of how they displayed their budget. You know, this is a pie chart. It's beautiful. It's blue. It's very aesthetically appeasing. But they used percentages for everything. And so when I'm looking at this, I don't actually know how much the budget is, right? I know the percentages of what the budget is, but I don't necessarily know what the budget is. Now, I will admit I took this out of context of their full proposal, and so they did put the budget in another point. But if you happen to display your budget in this way, you're going to want to attach a little bitty table to add some numbers. And I'm going to show you some examples. P.S. These are not We the Freeze numbers. These are numbers I randomly made up to give you an example. So because salary is about 69% of their budget, maybe you want to break down the salaries. Within sharing salaries with people, they're looking for two people. They're looking for two things. So funders are trying to see whether or not that lowest salary is way far off from that top salary. So if the ED is making $250,000 a year and everyone else is making $60,000 a year, that could potentially be a red flag. Why is that person making so much money? Why is there such a wage gap or difference in between those? Here is another way in which you can display that budget. Now, here's something really nice. I really like this pie chart. I think it's really pretty. I think it sort of shows that honestly, it's human power that is generating the impact of their organization, but this breaks it all out for me, right? This sort of shows me, oh, okay, this is how much it costs. And again, this is not We the Freeze budget. I made this up. I don't want anyone going back to We the Free and saying, I know how much your budget is. I made this all up. So this is a way to sort of use the pie chart, but then also have a little cheat sheet for the funder so that they understand how much money is being placed into those. So here's another way to display the budget. And this is a very popular way recently. I think because funders sort of maybe give a little bit of hesitation if overhead is really high. This is displaying budgets by program area. So you're not breaking out overhead cost or salaries or rent or any of those things. You're just saying this program costs this. And this is a really interesting way, specifically if the funder has already said, I really like your podcast series. I think it's great. So you can see within here that they're displaying the budget and they know immediately, oh, that's $80,000. Now, what you could do is you can embed a link into every single one of these and they could click on it and get the breakout of that program. And that would be a really interesting way to do that. Another way to display the budget that I think will be very popular this year when we do have some limited funds is what is the bare minimum it's going to take to keep you going and what is your ideal? What if you got more grant money than you knew what to do with? So the minimum and ideal is a really interesting way of doing this. I know many funders, one of the first questions they have is, if I gave you $1 million, what would you do with it? And a lot of times you're not ready for that question. You're like, what? I'm just trying to raise salaries for my staff. Why are you challenging me with this question? But Animal Society is a group in the EU that's working on a lot of different policy and lobbying efforts. And, you know, this was really interesting. I hadn't seen this done. This is a new proposal that I just got. So I thought it was a kind of a cool way to sort of share this and maybe something you want to explore within your proposal writing. Okay, so we just expanded on budget. We still have name of organization. The mission and the vision, it should just be 1 to 2 sentences. You can just share the mission. Again, it's kind of just like a boilerplate. Now we're going to talk about track record, goals, and outcomes. So first, we're going to talk about track record. Now, if you are an established organization, then you probably have a lot of things to share with me. What you've done, how many leaflets, how many people you've touched, how many animals you've saved. But if you're brand new, if you're Liberation 360 and you have just started, then you're going to have to share your track record in a different way. And a way to do this is to share your bio. These strong, incredibly powerful women have worked in our movement for a very long time. They have incredible track records. Now, Liberation 360 might not have a track record, but all these women have done incredibly amazing things for our community. And this is a great time to build trust and highlight what an incredible community organizer you are, or accountant, or HR representative. If you've worked in another space, let us know, and you can share that within here. Now, I just grabbed these from Animal Equality, THL's, and MFA's websites. These are all on their websites. Occasionally, when you're building a proposal, it's very overwhelming because it's just writing and writing and writing and writing. Here's a way to show impact and track record in sort of fun images. It breaks up the sort of black and white writing of a proposal that a funder gets, and it's sort of fun to see these images and to show your track record or how you created impact. So the specific goals and outcomes is the final element that you absolutely must have in your proposal. Now, I think all of us could generally say that we have the same goal, right? People always say, oh, you're trying to save animals. And I always say, no. I'm trying to make it so animals are not created in the first place for us to eat. I don't even want them to exist, right? I want only the ones to exist that have to be here. I don't want them to exist to be my food. And so, we can absolutely say that all of our goal is to not make animals or save animals or end climate change or alleviate hunger or whatever you're doing. But your goals and outcomes is where it's time to get specific and detailed. So I want to ask the big questions here. You're going to save animals, but how? You're going to encourage veganism, but why? You're going to stop factory farming, but when? What is the date? Is your campaign to end the factory farming or close down a factory farm by X date? Are you going to empower communities, but who? Who is your specific community? Where are they? What are they like? What is their age range? So within the goals and outcomes, I want you to get more specific here and be very, very, very intentional about these questions, how you ask them. Okay, now, when asking these questions, something often comes up. Now, one of the major, I guess, items that continues to arise in my funding in the past couple years is that we see new groups popping up, very exciting, but they're oftentimes doing a lot of the same things of other groups that already exist. Okay. And this is controversial, right? This is definitely controversial because in one way I want to say more the merrier, everybody fight for the animals. And then the other way I want to say, we only have $200 million. Are you sure we need another group? So I can see both sides of this. This is another conversation you and all of us can have offline in a group chat at some point. But I think what's deeply important here is that you make sure before you start a nonprofit, before you create something else, I want you to make sure that you know what's already in the space. Who exists in your state, in your country, in your intervention, in your movement? And oftentimes doing a landscape map of the field is deeply helpful. So if a group comes to me and says, oh, we're doing leafleting, I'll say, cool, awesome. Where or how or why or when? And then I'll say, oh, that sounds like this group and 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 this group. And if that individual organization doesn't actually know all of those other groups, it's a huge red flag. Because it is your job to understand the movement, to know the players, to know who else is doing what, and then to differentiate yourself. So first thing you want to do is a landscape map. Who else is in the field? What are they doing? And then you want to get clear on your mission. How are you different? Are you serving a region or a community that no one else is serving? And then the what and the how. How are they doing it? Where are they doing it? Why are they doing it? And are you doing the exact same thing? And if you are, you might want to ask some deep questions about whether or not you need to exist, or if you just need to go and join their forces. If you are doing something totally different, highlight it. Tell me how. What are the differences? Explain it to me. If you have more than 3 to 5 pages, put it in the document. Show me that you did your research. That is a huge check plus that you know who is in the field and you know what is happening. Okay, we're going to come back to this vegan activist. We're going to see if they hit all of our basic things. Does everyone remember what they were? Okay, so we have the organization name right up here, winning. But guess what I'm missing up here? I'm sure we can all see. There's no org budget. How dare they? Instead, they gave us the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, which are delightful and lovely. I don't really care about them. I would rather see the org budget. But again, they go through, I'm going to go through this quickly. They're telling me what their programs is. There's direct links to everything, as you can see. They give me their values. They absolutely tell me who their people are in this space, who's supporting them. They're giving me their goals right here. They're definitely telling me what impact they've already made it. They've already supported all these groups. And here's a nice little way in which they're showing impact through these beautiful icons right here. That's really lovely. It sort of breaks up the writing. And then they're showing me this, which I think is a really important part. That's something very interesting that they started doing after I supported them. They started to track how much money they're saving everyone. So they're trying to show the way that their free services are actually saving us all money. But then they're also tracking impact by volunteer hours right here. These are all really wonderful ways in which they're showing their impact. And then finally, they're giving me their budget. Now, their budget right here, it's pretty clear. It would have been nice to be in a little Excel table. It's just easier to read. But down here, I want to show you a couple of things. They give me their total projected budget for this year, but then they tell me that they have a match. Now, why is that important? It's important for two reasons. It's an incentivizer for the funder. They know that if they release $100,000, another funder is going to release $100,000. But then also it sort of shows that they're doing their work. They're already trying to get money from other people. They're already raising money. So that's a really wonderful, wonderful way. Okay, I'm going to go back to this for just a minute. I know what you're thinking. This is flashy and beautiful, and they're hacktivist, techie people, and I don't know how to build that, and I don't know what that color is. I'm going to tell you someone that equally got funding from Greenbaum Foundation, okay, that gave me a complete opposite proposal. It's all black and white. There is no color. There is absolutely no pictures. There's no happy cows. There's no funny chickens. But it's very clear. It's very short. It's only 2 pages. They talk about impact, track record. They tell me who they are. They tell me they're a 501c3. They tell me their goals, which are the next steps. And they tell me exactly what they're looking for and how much they've already raised towards that goal. Now, I say that because I don't want to make you feel like you have to be fancy and techie and bright and splashy and neon-y and have little characters everywhere. It's more important that you're able to clearly share with us your vision and meet those sort of basic elements that we're looking for in the proposal, which are org budget, name of organization, mission, track record, goals, and outcomes. Everybody got that? And I see a hands, thumbs up, everybody feeling good? I know this is a very long presentation. I want to say we're halfway there, but honestly, I have no idea. So I'm just going to keep going. It's going to be delightful. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here are some other things you can include. I'm not going to go into this. Oftentimes, if it's a 10-page proposal, if it's a 20-page proposal, then you're going to dive deep. You're going to go into the strategy and the theory of change and show a movement landscape and talk about yourselves and the history and the origin and share all of those things. I said this at the AVA Summit, but I'll just say it again. It's really hard to capture your passion and origin story and why you do this work in a document. So oftentimes I like to share those really passionate stories for in-person meetings. If you had this magical moment with a cow on the side of the road when you were 7, it's hard to put that into writing unless your mom happened to take a picture of it while it was happening, and then you can share that. But this is the space where you go into more detail, you show your research, you help people understand, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and really get into the nitty-gritty details. Okay, so how do we send it? If we have been invited, if this is a solicited request, a funder or a corporation or someone has asked us to give us this, you just send it through email. That's it. No snail mail anymore. But wait, before you do that, we are going to check all the things. And my next slide is a little checklist that you should tape to your wall and in your bathroom and on your car and in all the areas. The biggest point of dismissal of proposals or applications is doing one of 3 things: spelling things wrong, doing math wrong, or not attaching what you need to attach in the application. And we'll talk about that more a little bit later. So before you send anything, don't put it in an email. Don't put their email address because you might accidentally put send. Just before you do anything, check all your stuff. Have someone else read it. Have them check it. Triple check it. Quadruple check it. Quintuplet check it. I don't know how to say 5, but you're going to check it over and over and over. And you're just going to make sure that you are in the best shape to submit something that feels really good and positive and yummy. And then you're going to email it. You're going to keep it short and sweet. Okay. You're just going to say, you asked for this proposal. It's attached. We made this connection through X funder or through X group that you support, if there is some connection, and then you send it. The reason it's important to state the referral, if you were connected by another funder, but that was 6 months ago and you didn't need the funding now, but now you need the funding, you just need to remind that person how you know them. We met at this reducetarian, or we were connected by this funder, or this grantee said that I could chat with you. So make sure you state that connection, keep it short and sweet. Now, the caveat to this is if you are doing an unsolicited request, that means you somehow got this funder's email or they have an info at email and you are just randomly sending them a proposal. This email address they have never seen before. They do not know who you are. They are not going to open an attachment from a random email address. So you need to also put that document in the body of the email somehow. Maybe that's a Word version of it if it's a PDF. You absolutely cannot expect funders who get over 5 to 10 to 20 unsolicited requests a day to open something from a random email address, especially in the day of age of like malware and all the things. So always put some version of it in the body of the email. Okay, here's your checklist. Print it out, take a picture, put it on your bathroom, check your spelling, check your math, check your acronyms. If you're like a real sciencey sort of place and you give me 8,000 acronyms, number 1, it makes me feel dumb. Number 2, too many acronyms. Number 3, I probably don't know what they mean. So just spell them out for me. Tell me what NIH means. Tell me what USDA means. Tell me what all the things means. Or give me a little key at the bottom that describes what all the acronyms are, if you want to save space. And this is potentially controversial. I don't think there's room for sad animal photos in proposals. I'm going to tell you why. In our brains, the generosity, positivity, happiness part of us is oftentimes cut off if something makes us go into existential crisis. For me, sad animal photos makes me go into existential crisis because I think, oh my God, there's so many of them. What am I going to do? I'm just going to get in bed because I can't save all of them and there's nothing to do. So I know that in some places, sad animal photos really motivate people to give money, but I think that that is small amounts of money. And I think that happy animals, we can save them all. We are changing the landscape. We are letting these chickens free. I think that that is the space. And those are the pictures for proposals. We can fight about it later if you want. I'm all up for that debate, but I'm going to move on. Okay. This specifically came from a funder. We are a very small movement. We have all worked for each other. We all know each other. We've all been at conferences together. We all sing karaoke together. We probably had a meal together. So you probably know that I have a Facebook page or an Instagram page. You have probably asked to friend me, and I probably let you in. This does not mean that I want for you to give me an unsolicited proposal. Okay. And this is confusing, right? Because you're like, wait, you just friended me. I now see every picture you've ever posted. I know your dog's name. I know that you love horses and blah, 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 blah. Of course, I can give you an unsolicited proposal. If a funder allows you into their social media presence, that is very different than meaning that funder wants to fund you. Okay. So oftentimes a social media place, and these are the following: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. Are there more? I'm sure there's more, but of those 5 places, that does not mean that you can slide into their DMs and send them an unsolicited proposal. Okay. It's not right. You're also sort of crossing boundaries of like, they've let you into their personal life and now you're asking them for money on their personal space. And guess what? It goes the other way too. If you friend me on Facebook, I see everything you write. I know every time you yell at someone. I know every time you're angry. I know what you thumbs down. I know what you thumbs up. I know what you heart. I know what you support emoji. And if you are fine with that, kudos. But I think that we are walking a tightrope here of like boundaries and what is my personal platform and what is my I am Meghan, CEO of Greenbaum Foundation platform, and what is my animal advocate. So this can get a little messy, and I'm just going to warn you of this. I think that if I were you, I would not want to be friends with funders in spaces like this. I think it's tricky. I think that sometimes funders will see something that someone posted that is very personal and maybe has nothing to do with their job. And they'll say, I can't believe they said this. I can't believe they have that political view. I can't believe blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's their personal page. We can't judge them, but it's hard, right? All the lines are really messy. So again, LinkedIn is different, okay? LinkedIn is a space where it is a business platform. Now, I will let some people on my social media, but I will let anyone under the sun under my LinkedIn because I'm giving no info. You don't know if I'm married, you don't know if I have kids, you don't know my birthday, you know nothing on LinkedIn. So I do understand why people ask to submit proposals on there. I would just say this. In any of those spaces, the first thing you should do is go to their website and see if they accept unsolicited proposals. And if they do not, just never, never, never do it that way. Even if it's LinkedIn, even if it's a business space. I'm sure there will be questions about this afterwards, so we can talk about it more. But I'm going to move on because we are at 42 minutes. Oh no, still have a whole other section to go. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about grant writing. This is going to go faster because we just did all the hard work because we made a full proposal from nothing, from space, from out in the ether. And so grant writing is a lot of just copy and pasting all that information into our application. So we're going to talk about the application. We're going to talk about the challenges of putting it into an application and why it's different. And then I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. And I promise we're almost done. I'll try to go fast. Okay. So I sort of just pulled basic questions that like every application asks for so that you can be super prepared. These are very common application questions. Again, you're going to have the PDF of this. You don't have to screenshot or anything. You're going to have this at your ready. When you are in a downtime, not that any of us have downtimes because like thousands of animals are dying every second, but let's say you have a down moment, go ahead and fill this out. Have it on your desktop, have it at the ready so that you know your EIN by heart, or you know your requested grant amount for the moment by heart, or your org budget. This is a great, great, great opportunity to create a folder on Google for your entire team to have access to that has basic information. You would be surprised how many people that work for organizations don't know their organizational budget for the year. Like the marketing person, they don't know. And in some ways, I get it. And in some ways, it's really, really important that everyone knows. So I would do a little lunch and learn about org budgets. Okay, this is more short answer questions and applications, introduction of your organization, brief description of current programs, evidence of the organization's impact. Again, great time to sort of practice these, write them out when you're not under pressure of a time limit. Like, oh my gosh, this grant application is due in 4 days. And, you can't be as creative and interesting and a wordsmith as much when you're under pressure. And then finally, they're always going to ask for attachments. So you should have these in a folder at the ready. The IRS letter of determination, if you have that, board bios and pictures are oftentimes something that they want, or an example of a leaflet or a brochure. If you're a podcast, links to the podcast and so forth. And then finally, you're probably going to have to upload your financials. So are they in a way that you feel good about uploading them? Do they feel clean and clear? And are they also in USD in addition to your local currency, which is oftentimes what is deeply important and a lot of work, I do understand. Okay, so I pulled this directly from the EA Animal Welfare Fund. These are their questions. There's not that many of them. And here's where the challenge comes in. They give you 17 words to tell you what to tell them what you do. 17 words. I mean, it's almost accosting, right? 17 words. So here's the difference. In a proposal, you can use 50 words, right? If you're a $10 million organization and have 17 programs, wow, you can't do that in 17 words, right? And you have 142 words to talk about the summary of your work. So the real difference here is being simple and clear and direct with answering their direct questions. So if you need a short description, the question is, how would you describe your project in one sentence? One sentence. That, I mean, I can't even describe what I do in one sentence, right? I can't even describe who I am in one sentence. So these are really, really, really simple questions that have deeply complicated answers. And so I'm going to give you a magical trick, and this is going to change your life and applications. You are going to start with the budget. And I'm going to tell you why. They're always going to want a budget. Usually if it's an application, you are applying for project support, right? You're like pitching a project to them. And what oftentimes happens is they put the short answer and want you to describe it before you attach the budget. But in that short answer, you're going to be talking about a lot of different things. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're talking about leafleting and you're saying, oh, we do all of this leafleting and it's really impactful and it's had this great effect on the movement, blah, 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 blah. And then in the budget, when you attach it, there is no request in the budget for leafleting. The person that's reading that application is immediately confused, because they're like, well, why did they talk about leafleting in the short answer and they're not requesting money for it in the budget? This is why you start with the budget. You start with the budget, you figure out how much you want to ask for. There's usually a limit. You can apply up to $50,000 or up to $80,000. So let's say you're going to request $40,000. You figure out first what the budget is. And in the short answer section, when they ask you to describe the project or talk about the impact, you only refer to things in the budget. It really, really, really keeps things simple, direct, and short. Okay, so more tips and tricks. Simple, answer the questions as direct as they can. So I'm going to give you an example. My husband's going to come home from work tonight and he's going to say, what's for dinner? And I'm going to say, I had a really busy day. Did I answer his question? No, I did not. What I think happens is, and this happens even in in-person meetings, I'll say, you know, how many animals, you know, do you want to save next year? And the person will say, we're doing a lot of leafleting. Didn't answer the question, right? I would never answer that question because that doesn't matter to me, but if you knew me, that's why. But anyway, this is all to say, it's really important that you just simply answer the question as simple and directly as possible. And this is really when you need someone else looking at your application, right? You need someone else. The next best trick that I can give you is work offline. Do not work in that portal. Do not work in that portal. It is dangerous. It will send things. It will submit. It will turn against you. Google does not like us. They want to eat our answers. Do not work in any at all portals. Here's what you can do. If they send you a Google portal or some sort of link, you immediately email them and say, can I have a Word document of these questions? They always have it. They always have it. Okay. So ask them for it. Within that, you're able to work offline. You're able to take your time. You can go back and forth. You can edit. You can have other people review it. Never work in the portal. This is a two-pronged tip. Number one, you're not going to accidentally submit something. But number two, you're going to have all of these questions and answers to put in that delightful folder to use for later, because you've written beautiful sentences and you've described yourself lovely and in a short, condensed version that you're never going to be able to remember again. So within working offline and saving that, you are helping yourself twicefold. Again, check. Don't skip sections, fulfill all the requirements. Now, this is really, really, really important because if there is a request for proposal, like we talked about before, if they are requesting hundreds and they receive hundreds of applications and hundreds of proposals, they want to dismiss 50% of them. Do you know how they immediately dismiss something? If you forgot to attach something, or if you didn't fill out a question. They are not going to email you and say, Brielle, oh my gosh, we love you so much. You forgot to attach the budget. They're going to say, out, Brielle, you're done. We're over with you. Immediate dismissal is a massive reason why people don't get grants. They forget to attach something. They don't answer a question. They do it in the wrong format. And these places don't have time. So they just say, bye. You didn't read the directions. Bye. We don't have time for that. We have 10 other people that did it correctly, and only one of those people is going to get the funding, unfortunately. So work offline, start with the budget. Make sure someone else triple checks once it's time to submit. You have every single section filled out. You have every single attachment. And then finally, if you are doing that application and you have questions of the foundation or corporation or state or federal, whatever it is, ask them. If you don't understand what type of format they want your budget in, do not make it up. Do not guess. Send them an email. Say, do you want this in Excel? Do you want this in a PDF? Do you want this in a Word document because you want to be able to work on that Word document? This is really, really, really important that you know that you are allowed to ask questions. You are doing the work. This is a benefit to them, okay? They are not in control. You are in control. Ask questions, ask for specificity. Okay, I just put this slide here to say, if you eventually hire a fundraiser or a grant writer, you are going to make their job so much easier. If you have already done all of this work of creating this Google document, you have put in there every application you've already applied for, you have put in there all of those documents that they can easily grab, they know where your IRS letter and what it does for you as the ED or the former fundraiser or the marketing person or whoever you are, is it saves you time because they're not emailing you saying, well, what did you put for this answer? It is their job to go through that entire document and read every single answer for every application you have already done to date. It is magical for that person. So this is really, really, really a great idea. It makes people not work harder, but work smarter. Save everything you've ever written and put it in a folder. Here's my checklist again. Same thing, spelling, math, acronyms, but this time I just want to make sure you have attached all of those requirements. Again, it's the biggest way that people get dismissed. And I am done. The last thing I will say at 53 minutes, hey, 53 minutes, I cut off 4 minutes, is that more is not more. Okay, you going on for days and pages about how much you're doing and how wonderful you are is actually not helpful. Please keep it down to short, sweet, direct, thoughtful, honest, all of those words that we talked about before. And I am a technology genius because I created a QR code that you can zap into, the orange one, and it will lead you right to the PDF of this presentation. It took me many hours of research and work to create this presentation for you. So if you would please not share it, that would be deeply appreciated. It is my intellectual property. I do have my own business and 3 very hungry boys that I have to feed. So if you can, and then the other green QR code is my new website that I'm very frightened about sharing with the world, but I guess this is the time with all of you on this call. And thank you so much. That was a delight. I cannot wait to hear your questions. I think we have plenty of time for them.
Hi, Megan. Nice to see you.
Hi, B.
Can I already ask the first question?
Okay. I jump right in, B. You're okay. On it.
The thing is, when a fund asks me for the organization budget, I never know if it's the current year budget or if it's the projected budget. And I don't know either if it's expenses only or income only or both. And
Great question.
and even if, and especially when an organization is growing, like the current year budget would be very different from the projected budget. So
Yeah.
what should I
Great
do?
question. Yes, excellent question. It's good to see you, B. Okay, two things. Ask the funder, right? Do you want the current year budget, or we want the projected year budget? Oftentimes our budgets in the US run on fiscal year, so that means January to December. Now, this is an important. If someone is asking you for the budget in July, that's really middle of the year, right? So you're like, well, do you want this year, or do you want our projected budget for 2024, right? And easiest thing is, if you don't know, you just add both. This is our projected budget for 2024. This is our current year budget in which we're operating in. And you want to make sure that you share what your fiscal calendar is, right? So does yours run July to July, or August to August, or January to December, or whatever? Now, within that, I think that it's really important that you share not only the expenses, and oftentimes expenses are at the top, right? So you're going to show it costs this, 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 and this to run it. But then at the bottom, you're going to want to show what income or what revenue you have already made. And so if your expenses are $10,000 and you've raised $5,000, then you can put raised or revenue, and that can be from multiple sources. The revenue at the bottom to say we've raised $5,000, and then the last line is we're still looking to raise $5,000, right? We still need to raise that money. Does that answer your question, B?
Yeah, and yeah, so you said I should ask, right, to know if it's it depends also of the time of the year, right? But if
It
it's
does.
in like January, like, or December or January.
Then I would say, if somebody in this moment said, you know, Megan, what budget do you want? I would want projected budget for 2023. Because we're in January. So to me, you're working throughout this year. So I want the projected budget for 2023. That doesn't mean you've raised all the money, right, to do everything you want to do this year. But every year, usually between the months of, some people start early, like September, October, November, December, you're working with your board and you're working with your staff to build a projected budget. What do we want to do next year? What impact do we want to have? How many people do we want to serve? How many animals do we want to save? And so you sort of know projected wise. And I think that this is deeply, it's someone like in space confusing, because of the fact that you're saying, well, like, I don't know how much things are going to cost, and I don't know what we're going to do. If we don't raise the money, we're not going to work on it. So it is this sort of like weird, like, make up believe money, right? But you've got to have a goal. Think of a projected budget as a goal, and that is the goal that you're trying to reach for that year. If you're able to raise that money, these are your goals, and these are the outcomes in which you're going to serve.
And
Great.
last question. When I send my current year budget, and if it's the revenue, it's higher than the expenses, because, you know, no organization wants to bankrupt, right? So is this a problem is this a problem for a funder to see that we have raised more, and maybe he won't want to fund us because he might think
So if you're asking for $10,000 and you've already raised $11,000, absolutely the funder is going to say, why are you asking me for money? So there's two ways that you can frame this, right? The first way is that everyone should have, if possible, a reserve fund. So a reserve fund is also called a rainy day fund, or it's called like backup funding. So a reserve fund, this is controversial of how much of your yearly org budget it should be, but I think general practices, Dawn, maybe you can correct me, but it's 6 months. Some people want a year of reserve funds. That means that if something happens, the sky falls, someone gets hit by a bus, that you have 6 months of money to pay people, right? And they can hopefully find another job. But I think if you have a $10,000 budget of expenses projected for this year, and you've already raised $11,000, you should probably change, right? Because you're still trying to raise money. So either you can say one of two things. I'm trying to raise money for our reserve fund, and that's what I'm 2024. Can never start too early, right? And so one of those two things, if you've already raised over your budget, I think you can either say I'm working on my reserve fund or I'm forward fundraising. All right, I'm going to give other people a chance. I see, yeah, B, no problem. Karen, I see your hand raised. Hello. You want to unmute yourself, Karen?
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm with a new organization. We just got our nonprofit status, and there's been a lot of work done prior to that, but all for free. I mean, many of us are retired, and so we've spent hours and hours every day working on putting frameworks in place, researching, giving presentations, blah, blah, blah. So we don't have we don't have a budget yet. I mean, we haven't made money. We're looking at changing, getting cities to go default veg. And so their municipal budgets for food, we hope that they would slowly transition to a plant-based diet to get animals out of the agriculture system. So where do we start? Like, I mean, we need money because none of us are getting paid, and if I had a budget, I mean, like, I don't know where to begin, because we have nothing to put down. We've all done it for free, and people have given in-kind services, consulting services for free, connections, because I've been in the movement a long time. We bring in,
so yeah. Let me stop you just for time. So I would say that the very first thing you should do is sit down with you and your team of people and figure out how much money you have not been paid over the past X number of years. If you have in-kind services, you need to have some idea of everything that you've been doing. If that was paid, how much it would cost.
Okay.
And then let's say you come up with a crazy number, like $700,000, right, per year. Let's say you're giving like tons of time and you just have an army of people. Now, for a new organization to say, I'm going to try to raise 700,000 in my first year, specifically within our sectors, pretty challenging, not impossible, but somewhat challenging. And I think that a good place to start is to sort of say, okay, do we want to start with something like stipends? So stipends are kind of a UK European feel to me. Pranav, you might have like some insight on this, but to me, stipends are like not very US centered, but stipends are a great way to sort of say, we have these people, they're all retired, but they absolutely deserve some amount of money. In other sectors, that it often means it's volunteer support. They'll cover gas or they'll cover Wi-Fi for people, things like that. So try to at least first figure out how much it costs to do everything that you've been doing, and then sort of figure out a way to sort of slowly build up. Another way to look at it is just by paying one person. Usually start with one person, right? That one person. Who should get paid? Who's the leader? Who's the volunteer coordinator? Who's the ED? Who's the founder? Or if it's not that person, who's the program manager? It doesn't always have to be the ED or the founder.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move on just for purpose of time. Thank you for your question, Karen.
There was one question that was in the chat earlier, and maybe it was addressed, but someone was asking if they should include their theory of change in the section around mission, or, where and if there's a space for that.
Great question. Totally depends on how long it is. Theories of change are oftentimes really interesting, but long and wordy, and sometimes comes better across in person. So yeah, if you're doing a 10-page proposal, absolutely add your theory of change. Let us know how you think about movement building or shifting, behavior change, or moving factory farms towards not being factory farms. I would say that within a 10-page proposal, that should be somewhere in the juicy middle, because if they want to sort of skip through, if they've asked for a 10-page, they sort of probably read the first 2 pages and then they'll jump to the back and look at the budget if they don't have a lot of time. So I would just share that theory of change absolutely has a place, and especially for funders that are maybe maybe do a smaller amount of grants. So if you're a funder that only gives 10 grants a year, theory of change might be really important to you because you really want to get to know every grantee. I have probably over 140 grantees. So having the opportunity to go deep into theory of change is not always possible for me as the only employee. But I do think that there's a place for it. I think it just depends on if they want a one-page proposal, then no, you don't have room for theory of change, but you can chat about it. Okay. Is it Aliana? Am I saying that correctly? I apologize if I'm not.
You're close. It's Elena. Hello.
Elena, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you for asking a question.
Firstly, thank you so much. This has been immensely helpful.
Good.
I have two questions. One I put up in the chat. I'm hoping at some point if you could put up the QR code again.
Yeah.
To scan it. And then the other part was to give you a bit more context. I'm currently working to be ordained as an animal chaplain. So I'm in two fields here. I'm in the religious sector, and I'm also planning on providing support to advocates specifically at farmed animal sanctuaries and beyond. And so if you're kind of working in multiple areas, my instinct is telling me maybe don't necessarily look for funding if it's so limited for those who need it for the work with farmed animals. And so what are your thoughts on this?
So are you asking me like, hey, should I leave the farm animal funders alone and just go to the religious people?
I guess, but on the same hand, yeah, I guess that's where I'm thinking, because if there's, 27% is far greater than the 3% that you mentioned. And so it feels kind of icky to go in that direction.
Well, let me start by saying, doing nonprofit work should never feel icky. So like, you're allowed to ask for money. If you're doing work, then you're allowed to ask for money. You're a human being doing work for the betterment of society and climate and human race. So like, good for you. I think that I would have to think more about what is your opportunity to sort of pitch yourself, because if you're pitching yourself as a chaplain, that's a pretty common term within religious context, and there might be more people within the donorship of religion that sort of like get that immediately, had a great experience with a chaplain, have their own chaplain that they have this connection to, and so they want to give you money. If that's your circle, if that's what you're studying to be in, so you're around all those people and they're willing, I would say that's where the potential money is to support you. But in some ways also people tell me if there's another one, but I've never heard of a animal chaplain with a large cat on her shoulder. Meaning you also are filling a very niche-y thing within our sector that doesn't exist. And again, this goes back to those questions around like, who else is doing the work that you're doing? I don't know anyone else that's doing the work that you're doing. And so maybe it is an opportunity to get both. I would say this: don't limit yourself and feel like, oh, there's so limited money, like I shouldn't ask for any. No, like I would use the F word, but I'm trying not to cuss right now. So, no, screw that. Like, no, like you're allowed to ask for money, and you're allowed to put yourself out there and see who picks up on what you're putting out. Like empower yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we have 15 minutes. Hi, Marcella.
Hey.
Hi.
First, thank you for the presentation. It was amazing. And second, my question is a little bit off the topic, I guess, but it's like the difference between writing a grant and then doing a pitch live for the person, for the video, because I think this is important to chat about.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's totally different. I could do 2 hours on pitching live. Maybe I will. Maybe that's what I should talk about at AVA 2023, because I've been trying to figure out if I want to do a talk. Yeah, pitching live is different. It's oftentimes you have more space and it's really about human behavior and reading that funder or reading the room, right? Because you're trying to see like, are they interrupting me? I know Jim, my incredible gentleman that I work for, his brain works so smart that he knows the next question before he's even asked the first question. And so he's very quick and sort of like, and so if you want to go into like a deep explanation of theory of change, like that's not his vibe, that's not his jam, that's like not what he's going for. And so a lot of that is really being very comfortable in talking to people, being very open, going with the flow, getting that sense immediately when the funder is sort of like, oh, that doesn't feel right. And where do you pivot from there? I honestly don't know if I could teach it. A lot of it is practice. And so pitching people, fundraising towards people, even people that you don't need to get money from, like, you know, pitch to your friends, say like, I want to share with you my idea and see how it can go. I think something that would be really powerful in our communities, I know there's a bunch of us that live where I live, is just getting together and doing live pitches. Like in person, like we all make some chili and we like live pitch each other. It's really a need and it is totally different. The written word and the verbal word are not the same at all. Yeah, so I know that's not really a good answer, Marcella, I'm sorry.
No, it's amazing. And a quick follow-up. If we have someone that is important at the organization, but is not doesn't have a good English or doesn't have like all the information ready, are you supposed to take them, or think about who are you going to take to those events and to those encounters and to talk to people?
Yeah, this is hard. I mean, money is limited, traveling's expensive. It's a good question. You know, not having English within the context of a US conference is hard, but also how unfair is that? And how messed up is that? Right? And like, I'm not gonna try to pretend like that is not deeply unjust and unright and all of the things. But if I can't speak to the person, even if they're your most extroverted and most like charismatic person on the team, I'm going to get their vibe. I'm going to be like, ooh, they're like a party. I want to hang out with them. But like, I have no idea what they're saying. And wow, let's have a drink. So it is hard. You know, I would say this: if for some reason you got a travel scholarship and they need to be exposed and their English is halfway there and they are the best person on the team, it's wonderful to give opportunity to people. It's really wonderful to expose them. And, you know, we have a pretty large Brazilian crew now, right? Like we have a lot of people now, like they could jam and hang out with some people. And so I hope that as we grow and our movement grows, there will be more opportunities to have people having conferences in Portuguese or Spanish or, you know, whatever sort of language that we can provide space and context for them. Not this year. This year's tough. Everyone just hold on to the roller coaster, but maybe 2024 if the stock market is better. Great.
If no one has another question, can I
have
ask
one?
someone? Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Hi, Liz.
Megan, hi. What do you think about memberships to grant foundations like Grant Search and Foundation Search, and there's a few others for the stuff that we do? Do you think it's worth it or a waste of time?
Let me tell you, I'm not going to say whether it's worth it because I don't know how much money you have. But let me say this. I think local is better. I say join your local Rotary Club. I just learned about Rotary Clubs. To me, they're like something that like people in the 1800s do, but like they're still a thing. And they are ways to connect to your community. So instead of joining something that might have like a $2,000 a year, or even going to a conference that costs like $6,000 to go to, and you might be exposed and you might get a chance, I would say that you have potentially a better chance of impact, connection, and raising money by joining your local communities that support nonprofits or support community change. Go to your city council meetings, go to your community events, go to those local things. In two ways it will help you. Number one, it'll give you a chance to pitch, talk about what you do, share who you are, get to know other people. And there's a potential for a $5,000 grant or a $10,000 grant, right? We're not talking about $100. Like, people within those groups are usually retired. They're usually business people, and they usually give to nonprofits. But then you also have an opportunity to practice for if in 2 years you have a bigger budget and you want to join one of those big conferences and you want to go to a larger conference and pitch yourself there or sign up to be a speaker, you will have had all this like local lovely practice. So Pax Fauna did a big article recently about like, we need to talk about veganism and change and all this as like a citizen, right? Like it's our civic duty. And it really spoke to me because, to me, Deanna's got a good point. Like, all of these places like are available for us, right? Like as she said within the chat, like the I don't even know what Kiwanis is, but Rotary, Kiwanis, all of those things, it's local, and it's a way for you to practice learning pitching, meet people you don't know, and then also really invest in your own communities, which I think many people at this call have done deeply and for years, like Chris and tons of other people on here. They're investing in their local communities, and how do we change those first? I know we all have the same feeling that the USDA's, they're just this giant place that kind of, I don't know how much change we're going to make there, but dash on it, we can make it in our local community. So I say start small. Cool. Any more questions in the chat, Brielle, that I'm missing? Because I'm not really looking at it.
No, I think that we are all caught up.
Okay, great. All right, well, you have 7 minutes till my nanny leaves and I become a mother again and not a fun webinar giver. So if anyone has any other questions or thoughts or anything, I'm here. And if not, I put Alana the link to the PDF. If you saw that in the chat, I hope you saw that. I put the link where you can click on it. The reason that I am asking for you to ask for permission for it, I like to track it. I like to see how many people are looking at it. It's helpful to me. I like to track how many people I'm serving and the communities, and also where you are in the world. And I get to see people from all over the world. And also, if you go to my website and you have feedback, if something is not clear, if something is misspelled, God forbid something's misspelled, please let me know immediately. And I will just say this year, last year and this year, it's really been my intention to provide more free training to our community, to give more public speaking training and pitch training and all of the things. And it's been really hard on me. I've been pretty terrified and really lacked a lot of the confidence that I used to have as a young, sprite 20-year-old who thought I could do anything. 40 is a new world of insecurity. So if you have time to go onto LinkedIn, and I don't know what you do, thumbs up me on public speaking, or I don't know how you do all of that stuff, but if you want to promote me on any of those spaces, it would be deeply appreciated. Only if you enjoyed it. If you hated today, please stay off of LinkedIn and don't thumbs down me. And I will see you in another time and we can have a talk about why you didn't like me. But yeah, I'm always here. I know I support many, many, many of you. I'm so deeply proud to be a part of this community. You're all so incredibly inspiring. And it's just an honor to work with you, to fight for, I don't know, the human race and saving our entire planet in existence as a being. So yeah, I'm here if you need me.
Thank you so much, Megan.
I do think the entire URL was not pasted, by the way. I think it got clipped.
Oh, hold on. Let me do it again. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you. Hold on. I'm doing it again. See?
40 is the new 20, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
Is it?
It is.
You sure about that? You
quite
sure
sure.
about that, sir?
I am.
Oh, you're right. It's not. Okay, let me figure out. Hold on just a second. Okay, here it goes. Here it goes. Get link. Sorry, you're right, Pranav. I did it wrong. Well, it doesn't feel like the new 20 in my knees. So yeah. We're going to talk to my knees later and tell them that 40 is the new 20. Did that work, Pranav? Can you check on that one, guys? Did that link work?
Yeah, I just need access. That's it.
Okay, great. I'm going to nope, not as soon as this is over. As soon as it's over, I'm going to feed a toddler. But tonight at 7 o'clock, when he is in bed, I'm going to give you all access. I promise.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. This was fantastic. So much valuable information. I feel like I need to go back and watch it a couple more times to get on. Right. Thank God we recorded this, everyone. I just dropped in the chat a link to a feedback form. We would really love to hear from you about, there's really only 2 required questions to get some like quick feedback. If you really only have like 1 minute, we would love to hear from you. And then if you have some more time, you can share some more detailed in the qualitative section. But that is really, really helpful for us to know. I know many of you have been enjoying this series and we want to know, what we can do to bring more topics that are supportive and helpful. And along that same vein, this is session 3 of this series. We have 1 more. And if you've been joining along for the series, if you've been enjoying this, you want to see more of this, we would love to have your support and being able to continue offering things like this for folks in the movement. And so I'm going to drop a link to support APEX Advocacy as well, in case you feel called, you feel moved, you want to support us doing more of this. And lastly, we have our next and final session for this series. But, I feel like we're going to continue doing more of this, but just for this series for now, we'll be wrapping up on February 23rd with a very exciting, kind of like a funder panel. And I can share 2 of our guest speakers for right now. We have Tom and Lauren from Stray Dog Institute. We have some more people coming along. That is going to be a really great opportunity to, again, hear from the other side, people who we're submitting these proposals to, who we're asking money for, from, and getting their perspective and having an opportunity to submit questions ahead of time so that we can really get the most out of that session. So stay tuned. We'll be sharing more details about that. Anyone who's signed up for this, I'll be sure to send out the link for that so that you can submit questions ahead of time and be signed up, and we'll send it out on the FAST channel as well. So I think that those are all of the things. If you have any, yeah, exactly. Season 1, this is just season 1. More Thank you all so much for joining us. I can't wait to see you again. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hop off, Brielle. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.